I'd like to welcome everyone to the Concord Agriculture Committee Spring Forum. And this is one of our community outreach information and meet and greet with farmers and with public. We have a few announcements to make. This Saturday at the Fowler Library will be the seed lending's really like third meeting, and our farmer Melissa will be there from Barrett's Mill. Everyone is welcome. Find out about seed lending and how you can take part. They will be happy to have as many people as possible. Also, this summer we'll be launching our farm passport. We had one last fall. We had 3 winners of $50 ag bucks, which you could spend at any of the farm stores. And we'll be running that this summer, and we'll start probably mid-May. So look out for those. Pick one up and participate. You might win some ag bucks. Also, Ag Day has been decided to be September 14th. So plan that the sun will shine and the temperature will not be probably above 70. Also, a plug for the town committees. They are all looking for people who are interested or have some connection with a subject which they would like to volunteer to be on a committee. Those forms are in the town hall and online. They're called green cards. They're not for immigration or migration. Let's see if we have here. Oh, yes. And we'd like to let you know that the Ag Committee and the Farms Associated have now an Instagram account. We are up to date. It's called
Farms of Concord.
Okay. So go on and see what all the farms are up to. We try to post photos weekly, more or less, and of course there'll be a lot more as the season goes on. And I think it's time to get on to our guest chefs. And these are our local chefs who are going to talk about local food and what it means to them in their business and to them personally. We have, let's see if I can get everybody. This is Brian and Bob from Newberry Court. And this is another Brian from Paparazzi. This is Mark from Saltbox. And this is Justin from the Cheese Shop. So we have a variety of establishments and how they have faced the problem, or maybe not a problem, of working with local produce, which I think is interesting. One reason I found it interesting is about the end of December after Christmas and the holidays are all gone and you've eaten all that wonderful food. There's hardly anything left. You can't go out and pick up your butternut squash, and you can't, maybe you have an onion or 2 left, but golly gee, what did the Pilgrims and the guys before the Pilgrims eat in January? It must have been awful is all I can say. So from January to maybe the 1st of April, before ramps and things like that start growing again, it's kind of a puzzle to me. So I looked up online, of course, and found that I think they relied an awful lot on food preservation. And I think that's one thing that we're sort of missing in this whole food movement. If you want to extend your season, you've got to think about how do I store, at what temperature do I store, what can I make while it's plentiful that I can have later on. And so one of their favorites and Boston's signature food item were baked beans. They dried the beans. You had a big stock of beans, you went in every once in a while, pulled up a few handfuls, soaked them up, put them on the fire, and left them. And they said that because Sunday was a no-work day, that the wives of these people would get their beans going Saturday morning, and then they could just leave them. And then Sunday, everybody had beans. Molasses and maple sugar were their sweeteners. We can have maple sugar. And I have brought some items that are preserved items, and one of them is maple sugar that I got enough maple slurp from my tree in my yard to make maple syrup. They also dried a lot of things, like grapes. And one thing that we can do now, and they may have done it too, are apples. If you go to the store and you really like apples and you like those apple crisps that come in the pretty red package, they're like $3 and something a package for a little tiny package, which I can eat in probably one sitting. If you take $3.69 of fresh apples, cut them up thin, put them in your oven at 170 for about 10 or 12 hours, you get the same thing, but a lot more of them. And that's something that everybody can do. They don't have to have a place to store them. They don't have to have a special jar. I do have a dehydrator, but for these, I only use the oven. It works fine. So dehydrators are nice, but it's another thing that you have to get. Of course, they made things with cranberries and applesauce and blueberries, and they had a lot of meat. And it seems that the pigs and the cows had to fill in the gaps for the hearty vegetables that they were missing. So without further ado, we will begin. And we did ask the chefs, or gave them a list of questions, which they're likely to address or may not, and it's totally fine. I want them to feel free to speak about the food that they're working with and your sources. So one of them was, tell us about your background and how you got into cooking in the culinary world, and what's a typical day for you. When did you start trying to incorporate local food into your menu, and what inspired you to do it? And do you think that the customers have voiced a response? What types of local ingredients do you use? When do you use them? And how do you approach menu design, and how does it work seasonally? What is one local ingredient that you go out of your way for, and why? What is your favorite menu item featuring local items? And what about at home? Maybe you don't even like spinach, but at home you love cream spinach. And do you do any food preservation either in your restaurant or for personal use? So I think we can start at this end. How's that?
Okay.
And this is Brian from Newberry.
All right. You wanted to get into
Yeah. So my name is Bob Herman. I'm the operations manager of dining services at Newberry Court. A little bit about my background. So formerly I was in the restaurant and hospitality industry. About 7 or so years ago, started working in senior living and have really loved it ever since. I've been at Newberry Court for the last 4 years. Typical day, well, it certainly depends on the day that we have, obviously, at work, but ultimately, I love and caring for the residents that we have, obviously, at our property. They have very high expectations, which we have of ourselves, so obviously that's aligned there. As far as really, inspiring in the local food, really, for us, we try to really be sentimental towards our residents. And obviously, being a little bit more seniors, obviously, in our facility, a lot of them grew up by going down to the local markets themselves and grabbing their own, produce and ingredients to make their own, personal items and so forth. So although there's a demand for it nowadays, and that's obviously been the trend over the last, few and several years, we've really just tried to do that consistently because that's really what they're used to and they're accustomed to. So, and it's really been a blessing having, obviously, Verrill Farms here locally. Their product is great. As we know, the industry can be a little bit inconsistent and shaky at times, but they're really good about communicating what they're able to provide and when, and we really make a good job of, informing our residents of that as well, because they're obviously very in tune just from all of their years of cooking. So and we try to just hit home so that the foods that we prepare and offer for them are what they're looking for. So this is Brian. I'll let him, talk more about the actual specifics of the ingredients and so forth of how it hits home for them as well. So.
Okay. Hey, I'm Brian Reynolds. I've been cooking for about 33 years now. I've actually been the executive chef here at Newbury Court. It'll be 20 years in May. So I've been privileged to cook for this elderly community for 2 decades, just about. We actually started using produce from the farms locally probably about 18 years ago. It started in this summer. We'd get the local tomatoes and the local corn, and ever since we started that, we couldn't take it back. So it's like they expect it, they knock on my office door, they knock on Bob's office door, and it's like, when are we getting the corn? When's the corn gonna
It's
be?
corn season.
And it's like, well, I can get it at Verrill, but why can't we get it? It's like, well, there's a supply and demand issue here, and Verrill's going to sell it to their farm stand until they have enough to sell it to other restaurants. So we can't get it until they're ready to sell it to us. So it's been quite a while since we've had that. It has progressed over the last 10 or 15 years. About 6 years ago, we hired a pastry chef, and we've done a lot of scratch desserts ever since. So local peaches, local strawberries, rhubarb, all big hits there. We also do a fruit basket that we put out in the dining room every night. Local peaches go in there. We buy apples throughout the seasons, whatever they got. So right now they got Cortland's and Granny Smith. They keep them in their cellar. So basically, I want to say about, over the summer, we probably sell a bushel of corn every day. From the time that we start getting it, which is the end of July, maybe the 3rd week of July, through almost the end of September, we sell 60 ears of corn a day, average. And that's not including functions, that's not including anything else. So we're shucking a lot of corn back there. Yes, we are. As far as how long we go, we probably go into like the mid-October. We bring in the pumpkins. We use those for decorational for Halloween, but we also will use them for cooking. We bring in gourds for decorations as well. A lot of apples in the fall for desserts, crisp pies, even baked apples, anything like that the old-time favorites for the residents. I enjoy cooking for them. I enjoy giving our residents the opportunity to, try a lot of different types of foods. We didn't really tell you much about the company. We have about 400 beds there. About 80 people are long-term care and memory support, and the other 280 are independent living. So we feed in my kitchen, we feed 250 meals a day average. And then there's another kitchen that we have on the other side of the campus that also feeds another 60 people, plus they do the long-term care and memory support, which is 80 people a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we're feeding a lot of people. It's challenging in the respect that we're feeding the same people every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Doesn't mean that we're not we're not feeding guests, because they do have a lot of guests that come and enjoy their meals, so, and we do a lot of outside functions as well. I think that the local produce, the farms, I've used Harrington Farm, I've used other small farm stands where I'll just stop and pick up, some zucchinis or cucumbers or tomatoes or something that I might need that I wasn't able to get through my produce company. And we continue to try to supply as much as we can for them locally. So I think that's all I get to say.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to entertain questions, but I'd like to go through all the panelists first, and then we'll come back for comments and questions. So go ahead.
So my name is Brian Parkin. I'm the general manager of Paparazzi.
I'm going to ask you to use the microphone.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Let's see.
Let's see if I can get the right distance.
That's on.
Yeah, it's on. Can everyone hear me? All right. So my name is Brian Parkin. I'm the general manager of Paparazzi in Concord. I've been with our company for 6 years. When I graduated from high school, I went to culinary school. I got out of culinary school and went and worked in a professional kitchen for a few years. Then I decided that that was not, unfortunately, what I wanted to do, but I still wanted to be in this industry. So the love of local produce and farms really came from when I lived in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Harrisburg, which is in central Pennsylvania. And the company that I worked for had a strong affiliation with farms in York and Gettysburg that we purchased chicken and pigs and vegetables from. We also purchased from a cooperative. That was in 2006 and 2007. And we were also part of the slow food movement, which is still going on today. But when I moved up here, I started at Paparazzi, and it was a very different experience for me. And this is our 6th summer now being actively involved with Farrow Farm, but we have continued every year to spend more money in the local economy when it comes to produce and dairy. As a company as a whole, as Newport Restaurant Group, we spend about $500,000 a year within Rhode Island and Massachusetts farms. So it's something that we are very, very strongly believe in. It can be a challenge for all of our businesses. It's a challenge for us at points, mainly due to the fact that that building has been here for 30 years. And people, our guests, you guys expect to have the same product that you go in that you've had for a long time, which is wonderful, but it makes certain things challenging. It makes changing the menu challenging. It makes trying to bring as much produce as we can in challenging. And every year we've gotten better with it. Once Farrow Farms has their lettuces, pretty much all the lettuce in the building from June till September comes from them. Anytime that you have tomatoes or corn or zucchini, anything that is available, we will purchase throughout the summer. Similar to Newbury Court, the fall, towards the end of the fall is challenging for us, just like it is for everybody else. The way that we continue to support local economies throughout New England is we purchase from a cooperative in Rhode Island called Farm Fresh Rhode Island, and that continues to help local farms throughout the winter. We buy maple syrup and honey and dairy and eggs from them, which makes a big impact for everybody. It makes us feel good about what we do for a living. Throughout the course of the year, probably our fan favorite is tomatoes. Everybody, I think, up here loves them. It means that summer is in full swing. It is something that when you come into the restaurant and you can have bruschetta or caprese or anything that is involved with tomatoes and you know that they're coming from around here, I think it makes it just a much better product. So we are in our first full year of changing the menu 3 times a year, and this will be, our menu change at the end of April will be our first cycle. One of the things that we did was we really took a good hard long look at some of the items on the menu and how we can describe them in a way that we can make sure that we can rotate our produce throughout the course of the summer. By being fairly vague is maybe the wrong word, but being vague and creating a little bit more interaction with our guests where, they're asking or our servers are letting them know what is in those items. But that gives us the opportunity to be able to continue to provide products that everyone is accustomed to, but also to be able to bring in new produce and new items so that everybody can try it as well. For myself personally, my favorite during the summer is tomatoes. I eat lots of them. My better half does not like them, so I end up eating a lot of them at home. Right now, over the next couple weeks, we'll start getting ramps and fiddleheads and beets and some lettuces from different farms throughout New England until we can really supplement all of that with Vero throughout the course of the summer. So we are very happy, and we've been very happy with our relationship with the farming community in Concord. Like I said, we just try to spend money with organizations that are supporting us as well. So that's it.
Cool. Hello, my name is Mark, and I apologize, but you've all been lied to. I am not a chef. I'm actually a farmer for Salt Box Farm, but I'm here on behalf because everybody's really busy. So I was like, okay, it's still somewhat of my off season. I will go and represent. But just a bit about my background. I actually did manage a restaurant in Boston for about 10 years. And during that time, during the last few years of that time, I realized I started reading Michael Pollan and watching different documentaries and realizing how poor the food system was in the country. And I had no idea. Like, I thought I was selling the best stuff to people, and it turns out it was like a step up from McDonald's. And so I got on a soapbox for a little while until I realized get off and go walk the walk. And I ended up leaving the restaurant to go be a farmer's apprentice. I was at that restaurant. I was gonna own it. That was my goal. I had the first right of refusal to buy it, and through 2 years of really looking at things, I became actually a farmhand at Saltbox, ironically, for my last year at the restaurant, and worked my 2 days off a week at Saltbox just to see if I was romanticizing it or what. And I got really dirty and I hurt, and I was living in Jamaica Plains, so I would bike. I didn't have a car. And they just put in a Whole Foods. I would eat a whole chicken and go to bed. It was just a crazy time. I had no life, but I was driven. So it was just enough to put on a resume for an apprenticeship out in Western Mass, which I did receive. The funny thing is, the building that the restaurant I was running was sold for $3 million cash by these guys that I knew in the South End, and they took a meeting with me because I was also managing the building, and they were like, "Did you ever think of owning this place?" Literally, this meeting was an hour after I just was accepted for the position as an apprentice out at Caretaker Farm. And I was like, "Yeah, that was my goal." They're like, "We know you've been running this place. We want to financially back you to buy it." And I was like, "What?" Huh? And so, it was some good thinking. I talked to the previous owner of the restaurant. She was like, "Mark, I was making $200,000 a year running that place," and it was Francesca's Cafe in the South End. So I dug deep into what's going on with food, and I felt like I couldn't go after the money, so I chose to go to Western Mass, scared out of my mind, went and lived in a cabin in the woods with no electricity, made $850 a month instead, and I was there for 2 years and learned how to farm, so it was pretty great. And just as it ended, Ben Elliott, chef and owner of Saltbox, called me up and was like, "Hey, do do you know anybody that needs any farm work? I'm like, yeah, like, I do. So it worked out really well. So I've been back there. This is my 5th season now with Saltbox, and it was new. Where I learned how to farm, it was all CSA. So I think many of you know what a CSA is. So it was new for me to grow somewhat wholesale for the restaurant. And it's been a great education. I get to sit with all the chefs and we talk about what they're gonna do, what they wanna do, like what weddings are coming up, because we have the catering service as well. And it's such a delight. Like me and my apprentices, we go there, we're the heroes. We come and they're like, yes, the farm food's here, you know, and everybody's tasting things and like, oh yeah, we got this stuff. And so it really is, it's something to put these things together, tie everything together. We're really trying to build a community with the farm, with the cooking school on the farm. We teach canning and preservation to our members, our CSA members as well, as part of the membership, and just really try to get people involved and tie things together. Even with our brewery, I grow the hops. They're doing a melon beer, a honey saison with our honey from our bees. The chefs love working with our lamb meat, which we also raise, and our eggs from our flock of chickens was also a big draw. So it's going pretty well, but yeah, I'm still farmer, not chef.
Hello, my name is Justin Kopaz. I'm the chef over at the Concord Cheese Shop. I've been there for about 16 years. I started as an in-between job, but obviously I haven't left since then. I have no real cooking background, did not go to culinary school. I went to become a teacher. I have a degree in education for bio and general science. You can see I'm not doing a whole bunch with that currently. But the way I got into cooking was, my parents didn't cook when I was younger. I grew up on mac and cheese, oodles and noodles, baked potatoes, things like that. Then when I went to college, I lived off campus. And you get to a point where you can only do so much with Kraft mac and cheese. And when you're in college, you don't have a lot of money, so I started putting scallions and chicken, and so that's where I kind of got into cooking. And then when I moved up here, I lived in Billerica with 3 of my friends from high school, and we had a deal. Whoever came home first cooked, whoever came home second made drinks, whoever came home third cleaned. So I was always home first. And also back then, I don't mean to talk bad about the Food Network, but back then, I thought it was really good. Like, they didn't have competitions and stuff. They had really good, learning programs. I'm sure they do now, but I just haven't watched it in a while. But that's where I really got into cooking. You screw up enough, you burn enough things, you make mistakes, and that's where I got all of my quote-unquote chops. So that's how I got into cooking, and then how I got into the chefing business is just been at the cheese shop for 16 years. A typical day, as you said before, as soon as you walk, you have no idea what your day is going to be like. I work in a small store. A lot of these guys work in slightly larger operations where you have so many hats that you have to deal with. Cooking is a lot of times not even half of what we do or what I'm doing. A lot of times it's staffing, cleaning toilets, taking out trash, answering phones, dealing with customers. So it's sometimes it's exciting, sometimes it's not so exciting because you'd like to cook, but a lot of times it's not, that you can't get to it. So it's a typical day. In terms of local produce, I don't like to say it, but unfortunately I don't use as much as a lot of people do. I would like to use more, but a lot of times, we were talking before, it's consistency and being able to get the same product. Brian was talking about tomatoes. Tomatoes is one of my favorite vegetables as well. But in the middle of December, when you're making sandwiches, you can't get local tomatoes. So that's one of the problems that, you know, we deal with on a pretty much yearly, sorry, my phone's ringing, you know, yearly all the time, so. I'm not gonna be, I'll be a little briefer. I'm a little nervous, but, I'm good. Anybody have any questions?
I didn't want him to run down too far. So you see the range that businesses have to work with. They can buy direct from the wholesaler. They can have it trucked in and it's all right there. So this week they decide we're gonna have mushroom, whatever. They probably have a stock of mushrooms. Well, nobody in Concord grows mushrooms, much less, I would say probably get them from Connecticut, would be the closest place. But what's in season, they also have to deal with health department. And the USDA has come up with a lot more consumer protection, which affects a lot of farms trying to deal with a local business. They all have to go by the same rules. And so maybe they can't make pickles, they can't make applesauce. They have to buy it with a seal of approval, even though it won't hurt you if you eat the same recipe that your grandma always did. So, do we have some questions for these guys?
I have a question.
Right.
Lettuce seems to be in the news so much lately about, would you take the mic? Oh, thank you. Sorry, it's got a long cord.
Lately, I've been reading a lot about problems with lettuce and E. coli, and I'm a little bit nervous even about recently because of the problems. How do what on a basis should a consumer be thinking about when they buy, fresh produce? I even read yesterday that said strawberries are terrible. You shouldn't really buy strawberries because that's one of the worst vegetables or fruits. How do you think about that from a chef's standpoint and from us as consumers of that?
So I think for like the lettuce example, right, there's two E. coli outbreaks in less than a year for romaine lettuce. And you have to trust your vendor. Our lettuces outside of the local lettuces come from a major distributor called Sid Wainer. We have an incredible relationship with them. So when both outbreaks happened, we knew before the news came. Like we pulled everything off the shelves, we threw everything away, we stopped. But just paying attention to what you're buying, where you're buying it from. I believe that the federal government is going to enact some more clear-cut guidelines for major farms bringing products to market. And ways to trace that so that a consumer feels a little bit more safe. But, washing your vegetables, washing your lettuce, just making sure you're handling it with care, I think is our biggest thing. And then, again, our relationships with all our vendors and the trust that we have with everyone, that they're being honest with us and we're being honest with our consumer. So, yes.
Yeah, I have to agree. So the lettuce outbreak was, we knew before, the consumers knew, and the only thing that we can do as a vendor is just take it out of the kitchen and just get rid of it and not serve it. As much as people don't want to hear that, that's just what we have to do because we want to keep them safe and we need to protect ourselves as well.
Yeah.
As far as fruit, strawberries are great. Local is such a small season, but we get the Driscolls from California, usually Florida, sometimes Mexico. I enjoy them. But you can't always guarantee that you're going to get a great piece of fruit either. So, there's good seasons, there's bad seasons, and it depends on how long they're on the truck coming across the country sometimes. So, yeah. did that
Yeah,
answer it?
that's
Okay.
I think that one thing that happened with the lettuce thing was it was romaine. You could buy other kinds of lettuce. If you could buy other types of lettuce, they were not affected. But also, if you buy local, that's the only way. We were not affected. Even my romaine was not affected. Do we have another question?
Just a quick question for Justin. They're talking mostly about vegetables, but do you do any local cheese producers in the area?
We do. There's a whole, I mean, Massachusetts has a handful, they have a lot, but, you know, Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, you know, I mean, there's a ton of local cheese producers. I can't go in depth on all of that because I don't know all about how many we do, but on an average, probably have 20 to 30 different local cheeses. And, you know, there's seasonality in cheeses as well. A lot of times with goat cheeses, they have to let them go dry because you can't get them all year round. And also, if you can really taste the differences in the cheeses, depending on what the cows and sheep and goats are eating. A lot of times you'll be able to taste, especially, you know, it's not local, but you'll be able to taste the different grasses from the cows of the Alps in Italy and stuff like that, and you'll get different types of cheeses throughout the year. So if you eat, you know, cheeses enough, you'll be able to taste, you know, sometimes you'll taste the flowers and you'll taste the grasses, and then you'll know when they're not getting that type of fresh grass and stuff like that because they're different places on the mountain and the grasses aren't in season. So.
Do we have another question? I'm going to take the mic.
Do any of you work in advance of the season with our local farmers to grow things that are especially for you that they might not otherwise grow?
That's a good question. We don't. One of the structures of our menus that we have is we do a rotational. We do 4 seasons of menus, so we rotate our menus every quarter, and that entails having a 35-day cycle. So it's a 5-week cycle. So we rotate through 5 weeks, then we start at day 1 again, and we rotate through 5 weeks. So that's about 2.5 times, and we go to our next season. So it's usually, so summer would start like in, was it June? Yeah, summer would start in like June, like the end of May. Actually, we line them up almost with the equinox. So whenever the beginning of spring is, we usually start spring, summer, fall, etc. So it's kind of hard to line it up because we might only do like asparagus like one certain day during the week, and you can't always guarantee that you're going to get a product from the farm based on their availability. So for me it's hard because it's a rotational 5-week cycle. I can't answer for anyone else.
We do not.
You
So
don't?
Saltbox would probably be, I'm sure that they do.
Yeah, we do because we have the luxury of having the farm. Yeah. So items like I was saying about the brewery, they wanted to do melons, they wanted to do a cucumber beer. They claimed some of the honey because we raise about 400 pounds of honey or so they'll get some of that. So it goes into my plan as I'm planning out the season, which I'm just about done right now. The apprentices start up on Monday. Like how much watermelon radishes they're going to have, how many heads of lettuce, I have about 12 successions throughout the season of heads of lettuce, how much they're going to get for that, leaf lettuce, scallions. So it's really fun. It's fun to sit there with them, and they're talking about because they have the catering and it's pretty high. I know that they also use Vero, high amounts of quantity, so not enough that I'd be able to grow for them, but to be able to highlight, all right, I'll make sure you get all of these eggplant or all of these kinds of peppers at this time and this time. Tomatoes as much as we can. So it's really fun. Our orchard is finally starting to produce some fruit and our raspberries. So yeah, it is fun. It's fun for them too because then they're I just watch them just like they're cooking in their heads. I'm like, that's great. I want to get that. So it's really fun.
I think you see the range of sizes of farms and what they can produce and what is being requested by commercial businesses. And that's our local problem, because we don't have large farms. And these guys are pushing a lot of fruits and vegetables that we could do a dinner or two, but that would probably wipe us out for several weeks until the next crop comes in. So that's a problem for them and for us. But I think that as farmers, we will pledge to do better and try to stay more in touch with these guys for what they might really be requesting.
I can talk loud. So, obviously during the season, I go to the farm stands and feel that I'm buying good food that doesn't have a lot of pesticides. But during this time of year, I've really gotten to the point where I'm trying to buy only organic. And, it's amazing, even Costco has some good organic things and wherever else I go. So what's your feeling? Is there a substantial difference? Like, example, strawberries now. I'll only buy organic strawberries or organic blueberries. Do you see a difference from what, I don't know if we have the opportunity to do that or what your thoughts are there?
Well, that is a big topic. I've been to a lot of certified organic or not certified organic debates. I think there's many lines that you can go. I think for me, my biggest feeling as a farmer is, am I taking care of the earth? Am I doing right by that watershed down the road? Am I doing right by the bees? Am I doing right by us as a human species, by what I'm putting down, where I'm checking my box as to how I'm growing? As far as consuming, my parents are a great audience for me because they, like you're mentioning the Kraft macaroni and cheese, I grew up on, Hamburger Helper and things like that. And so I've been opening their minds to things, and they're like, whoa, like really? And, but you see the health difference when you're eating something that's produced with more nutrients that was focused on in the soil. And so you eat a pepper that is not organic, but you eat a pepper that is organic, chances are there's more nutrients in there. And things are even happening more now with nutrient density growing practices, where you can actually look at how much nutrients are in your produce. And the large farms and where we went wrong is we did start to just deplete the soil and just use the soil as a medium. So basically just put seeds in there, put all the fertilizers, put all the pesticides, and then once all those things run off, there's no life left in that soil. And so over time, farmers need to move areas, and that's how, if you go back, that's how some deserts were formed. And so as a consumer, you're kind of making your vote, like I vote to do it this way. And it's still challenging because there's still not certified organic, there's still really great practices going on there. So it is trying to understand. That's why the locals best know your farmer, know what they're doing. If you get to talk with them, like that is even the best thing you could do. So
I think that a lot of times you'll find published lists of fruits and vegetables, and whether you should really only buy them as organic or as, either or is fine. And a lot of times, and we're lucky here, but a lot of times people don't have that option to go to organic if they only have one grocery store within 30 miles. So learning which vegetables are important to be organic and those which are borderline or okay, maybe you want to use less of those and emphasize your organic. Another question in the back?
Thanks. So my question is less about the produce that comes in and more about the produce that goes out, and whether you guys, any of you have been affected by the new state composting regulations, and if so, has it changed how you think about what you put on the menu and how you use certain produce?
So for us, we've composted for four and a half years. We have a relationship with a company on the North Shore called Black Earth Compost. Yeah, I would think that there's more than just a couple people in this area. So it really hasn't impacted how we do our business. The people that we do, I think the bags are they 25 or 30 gallon bags? Something.
The toter?
Something along those lines. And we probably fill up 3 of them throughout a day. In either food waste or food scrap from plates. We are trying to do our part, and we have for a long time, so it's not necessarily something that's greatly impactful to us. It might not be to you either.
No, I think, we started using Black Earth composting, was it about 4 or 5 years ago? There's probably 15, 20 local restaurants and facilities that use Black Earth composting. We chose to do it because we thought it was the best for the area, we don't do 3 toters a day, but it's definitely a decision we made specifically to go forth because we thought it was the best interest for the environment. So.
I'm curious to know whether you have any reaction from your regular suppliers when your buying habits change during the local season, whether any of them either initially or on an ongoing basis express frustration when your buying habits change?
No, I don't think so. I probably have about 8 or 9 vendors that I use, a couple produce companies, a couple meat companies. We give them enough business, so I don't think it impacts them enough for them to really, notice the difference, or if they do, it's not a big enough thing on their radar to really, be concerned about it. Because we always go back to them. We're pretty loyal to our vendors as long as they're giving us the product that we want and a quality product, so.
Yeah. I think for the most part, the vendors in the area outside of the large institutional vendors, probably, I don't know if you guys, but everybody uses somebody like Cisco or Performance Food Group, and it makes it easy to get paper goods and things like that. But for the most part, for the rest of the vendors that we purchase lots of products from, Paul Marks, Sid Wainer and Company, Cambridge Packing, which I'm sure all you guys use 1 or 2 of them, they're all locally owned companies as well. They're not huge conglomerates. So they understand, you're trying to do something for your community, the community that's supporting you. So we don't ever have any kind of issue with it either.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's I know that the produce companies that I use, they also try to use local farms when they can. Yeah. So when we know when we're going to be able to get local corn from our vendors as well. And the meat company that I have, they have an entire local line of, they have a bunch of farms that came together and they raised grass-fed veal, lamb, cows, everything. And you can just order from one place and they'll get it from whatever farm is actually producing the product. So I think it's, like you said, it's everybody, all these companies, they're local and they're trying to also make an impact as well. So.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay.
Have you guys had any luck in getting local products from indoor gardening and stuff like that for high intensity hydroponic LED gardening, lettuce and stuff?
There's one farm in Amherst, Mass. that we use called Queen's Greens. We use that through the cooperative in Rhode Island, and that's pretty much our only knowing experience. Like, I definitively know they come from hydroponic farms out there, and they produce incredible products.
Do they operate all year round?
I just looked at the sheet today, and I think that what they do in the winter is they mainly do microgreens, microherbs. They don't do, if they do lettuce, it's incredibly expensive in the winter. It's cost prohibitive to a business to use. But throughout, I would say April through November, you get consistent product from them, and mainly greens, so.
Yeah, I use tomatoes. We use it's called a Whopper tomato. It's basically it's a greenhouse tomato. They grow them up in Maine year-round. They're as close to as local as you can get as far as flavor. They're not shipped from California green and then they pump in that, what is it, the B3 or B6 in the truck while it's coming across the country to ripen unnaturally. They're actually coming nice and ripe, pretty local. Maine you can get anything from Maine in a day or less. We do some hydroponic greens. We used some last summer somewhere out of New York. This was through actually our Cisco supplier. So you can get hydroponics. You can get local and vine ripe tomatoes pretty much year round as well. So, yeah.
Everyone satisfied? Might as well make your reservations now with these guys. We're going out next week to enjoy all of their goodies. We have, did everyone get a number?
Did you get a number?
I am going to ask one of the chefs whose name doesn't begin with WXYZ. Let's try J. If he will give me his favorite number, under 50.
9.
9. Who has number 9? Nobody got 9. Then we'll go to Bob. What's your favorite number?
21.
21. Anyone with 21?
Go for 2.
Okay. Mark, what's your favorite?
13. Back to 0.
He's got to bring it home here, guys.
Brian, this is your chance.
7.
7.
Really? Really?
Oh, no. This is another one.
All right. The other Brian.
Okay, Bob, what's your favorite?
Go ahead, Brian. 5, sorry.
5.
We got a winner. Okay.
So you get the basket put together by Aaron's Mill and Beryl.
We'll get it to you after Rich gets it. It's vegetables.
So please take this time to visit the farms with tables in the back. There are information, I believe, for CSAs and other items. And we hope to see you at all the farm stands this summer. And don't forget to look for the passport also this summer. And we'll see you in September. Thank you very much.